Do you remember visiting Santa around the holidays? Do you remember sitting on his lap and telling him what you wanted for Christmas? Growing up in the 90s, I remember always getting to see Santa at the mall or at the Santa's Village in San Bernardino. I had made the trip to see Santa every year until I turned 12. At that age, I was feeling like I was getting too old to see Santa, and I didn't want to do it anymore. Out of all the Santas I visited throughout the years, there was one Santa that I could never forget, and thinking about it today still disturbs me. I was 4, and I didn't know how much danger I may have been in. This happened in the early 90s. I was traveling in the family station wagon with my mom and my 3 older siblings. We arrived at this big area that had a few big buildings, and there were a lot of people outside. I believe we were going to a homeschooling event for my older siblings. I remember being placed in a group with other kids around my age. My mom and older siblings went off to do other things and left us in the care of some lady. We formed a single line behind this lady, and I remember being near the end of the line. The lady then led us into one of the buildings. Inside, it looked like a school with a hallway and rooms with many doors. As we walked down the hallway, I noticed a room that was pitch black. I don't remember there being a door either. That should have been my first clue, that something was wrong. I heard a noise coming from the room. Sounded like a voice that said,
"Psst, hey."
At that age, I was curious, and as we established, I didn't know better. I stopped at the doorway and looked back down the hall. I watched the kids disappear into another room. At that point, I should have run to catch up with my group, but I didn't. I continued to enter the dark room until I heard the voice again. I can't remember what the voice said when I entered, but I started getting scared, thinking it was a monster. The voice then said,
"It's okay. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid of me."
The lights then came on, and sitting right there in the middle of the room on a chair was Santa Claus. "Santa!" I squealed with delight. My sense of danger was completely gone. I went over to him and was happy to see him. I got on his lap and started talking to him. He asked me the usual questions, like with all the other Santas I met. What did I want for Christmas? Was I a good girl that year? What was my name? And how old was I? Of course, I told him. Then I just started talking to him about my life, my parents, my siblings, my house, that sort of thing. It was just me and Santa talking to each other. I'm not sure how long I was with Santa, but it was probably about 10 minutes or so. To me, it felt like hours. Eventually, I felt like I had been there long enough, and I tried to leave. What happened next was more than unexpected, even to a 4-year-old talking to Santa. "I gotta go," I said to Santa. I remember trying to get off his lap, but for some reason, he wouldn't let me go. I can't remember the exact words he said to me, but it was something like, "No, I don't want you to go. You can't leave." I tried to get off his lap again, but I felt him holding on to me a little tighter, so I couldn't get off. He was restraining me. I was getting uncomfortable, and I thought Santa was acting weird. That was when I started to panic. I really wanted to get back to my group, to my family, and away from this situation. I struggled like that for what felt like forever, but was probably more like 30 seconds, before Santa finally let me go. I'm not sure what went through his mind, but he probably got scared that I would start to cry or scream, which would draw attention to the room, and he released me. I slid off his lap and darted towards the entryway. I stopped and looked back at Santa, and he was begging me to come back to him in a childlike voice. He was also pretending to cry. My final words to him were, "I gotta go. Bye, Santa." He continued pretending to cry as I left the room. I went back into the hallway and searched for the room my group was in. I didn't waste any time getting back to my group. When I found the room my group was in and entered, I saw the other kids just sitting at the tables coloring and chatting away. I found an empty spot, grabbed the paper and crayons that were on the table, and then colored like the rest of the kids. The lady that was in charge of my group never confronted me about where I'd been or what I was doing. I guess there were so many kids in that room that she didn't notice I was missing for that short period of time. When the time came for us to go back outside and meet up with our parents, we passed by that room again. Only this time, the lights were on and the room was completely empty. No chair, no Santa. And I was definitely not going to stop to explore the room this time. I'm not sure what my mom or my older siblings did that day, but I didn't bring up my encounter with Santa Claus. For some reason, I just dismissed it and carried on with what I was doing with my group. It was stupid of me not to say anything that day, or when I was traveling home in the car, but I do remember bringing it up at home a few days later. My parents didn't know what the heck I was talking about. They dismissed my story as a dream or a wild imagination. I know I did not make this up, imagine it, or dream it. I didn't bring it up again until a few years later. Again, my parents still didn't know what I was talking about. Then, my mom said something that still disturbs me. She said, if Santa was there that day, I would have been notified about it. The way she said that made so many terrifying things click. Santa was never supposed to be there that day. Even though this happened 25 years ago, these are the details that send chills down my spine to this day. It wasn't December. There were no Christmas decorations. He was in the dark on a day when there were hundreds of kids around and there was no line to see him. Thinking back on it now, I'll never know who that man was. It's probably for the best that it remains a mystery. When that memory of my encounter with that Santa crosses my mind, I try not to think about what could have happened to me if I had stayed with him another minute longer. I should consider myself lucky that I wasn't abducted that day. That could have been the last day I ever saw my mom and my older siblings. For all you kids out there listening to this story, do not ever encounter anybody that's alone in a room or a public area. It doesn't matter if it's Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, or Chipper the Chipmunk. They are still strangers. If they're alone and call for you to come over, run away. Don't take the chance. It's not worth it.